Now we gotta touch on Elon Musk's desire to start a TruthGPT. Now, Elon just launched a LLC or a company and is potentially looking to raise money from shareholders called X.AI. And shareholders would probably be private venture-backed shareholders who are already shareholders in companies like Tesla and Twitter, so not something we'd publicly be able to invest in. But a lot of this is inspired by Elon Musk's frustration with OpenAI turning into really a for-profit rather than being a non-profit, especially since he helped start OpenAI. And there's a lot of drama around, hey, wait a minute, what is a truthful AI and why does it matter? Well, we'll listen to a clip here from Elon Musk in just a moment, but I want to start by pointing out this community notes response that Elon Musk had following one of his tweets. And so Elon Musk tweeted the following. He said, NPR literally said federal funding is essential to public radio on their own website, now taken down. What hypocrites. Now, I believe you could actually still find this NPR federal funding item on their website. They're pretty transparent about their funding sources, but it is a little confusing to break apart because some parts they like to say, oh, well, in some years we average 1% from federal organizations, and then the reality is they're kind of like misdefining exactly where some of the money comes from. And really a lot of this is blowing up right now because companies like NPR are basically getting notes put under their actual Twitter tags showing that, hey, they are backed by the government. For example, here you have NPR has a tag, government-funded media. Or another one that's pretty funny that came up yesterday was the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. If you go to just at CBC, they argue they were less than 70% funded by the government. So Elon Musk helped label them as 69% government-funded media, which on one hand is pretty dang funny. On the other hand, makes you wonder, wait a second, whose truth really goes into this information? And that does create some potential problems because, for example, here is a community notes response to this that says, at the time of this tweet, there we go, at the time of this tweet, NPR's website dedicated to their finances still claim that federal funding is essential. So Elon Musk actually got community noted on this. So it's not taken down. NPR is still claiming that federal funding is essential to the public radio service to the American public. Now, what I replied to with this, because it's been such a big deal, is I replied, when I can find my reply, I think I have to press back twice here. I replied, it said, unbelievable that community notes left out the percent of funding. And I said I lost some respect for community notes. Now, if you weren't part of the big debate around this, that might seem extreme. Hey, community notes is just comparing or just suggesting that, hey, look, it's still essential, right? We're just fixing that item from Elon Musk's tweet, and that's fair. But all of this is based on a massive debate on Twitter about what percentage of NPR's funding is from the government. Is it 1%? Is it 10%? Is it 15%? And in my opinion, if Community Notes is going to come in and talk about this federal funding, you have to also talk about the percentage. Because even though NPR suggests that their government funding is essential, you have to remember what the word essential means, and it's something that nobody on Twitter is talking about. And the reason this is important is because of congressional appropriations. See, that is the most important thing that is missed on Twitter. And that's pretty common because we're generally trying to look for the most emotional responses to hate or support people. And it's really sad how frustrated people are on Twitter. I really feel like everybody, if people on Twitter were walking around, they'd all be walking around like this. Their hands on their hips and with just like a big scowl, like, yeah, I support that, but you're an asshole. That's really what Twitter feels like. And to me, it's a cesspool. It's disgusting because nobody's really trying to delve into truth. Instead, you're getting this war. And so I think it's ironic that Elon Musk is trying to create a truth GPT, when actually what you're seeing on Twitter is very much a fostering of divisiveness. Now, there's this idea that, well, maybe people should be able to speak freely, but really what you're doing is you're creating echo chambers. And even Community Notes isn't helping with that echo chamber problem. If anything, it often feels like it leans more towards just supporting Elon overall in his arguments. Because again, whether or not Elon was community noted for saying, oh, they took it down from their website, that's not the part that matters. The part that actually matters, the next level part that matters is, well, is government funding for NPR essential? But why does that word essential really matter? Well, calling something essential is more important than actually deciding whether or not that quote unquote essential funding actually dictates how NPR's news coverage is created or dispersed, or if there is independent journalism. Calling something essential is critical because when you look at congressional appropriations, Congress wants to appropriate money to where things are needed in the impression of the other companies, right? And so this, in my opinion, is where NPR is like, well, we don't really want to lose that federal funding, even though they could probably make up some of their federal funding from other sources or potentially all of it. I think it's a lot easier for them to say, hey, Congress, we're essential, don't take our money away. Now, that's my opinion. It could be wrong, right? It's entirely possible that, yes, the money is actually essential. But I know when NPR does their membership drives and they talk about their basically expiring coupon code like I do, because we're having a big price increase tomorrow on 4/20 at the end of the day at 11:59. We're getting rid of some of the lower bundle options. We're getting rid of some of the lower priced courses. We're raising the prices. We're changing things completely. So if you want to lock in the lowest price, jump in. But just like people say, hey, you know, I don't want to hear about the coupon code all the time. You don't want to hear about the fall membership drive at NPR all the time. But that's what they do to raise money so they could stay in business and actually provide value to their constituents, right? And so in my opinion, this definition of essential goes to congressional appropriations. And it's basically a way of saying, look, it's easier for us to just take some of that money from Congress and them not cut us out. Now, then that does make you wonder, is NPR impartial because of that? Maybe. Personally, this video isn't designed to defend or support NPR. I actually personally like listening to NPR, but that doesn't mean I agree with everything they say. Just like when I listen to the English paper, The Economist, they lean super far left and they hate Donald Trump. Do I listen and believe everything they say? No, of course not, but I use it as inspiration to fact check. That's the same thing that you should do as well, so you can make up your own opinion. But my argument is that, hey, if we really want to get to the bottom of truth in social media, then we have to provide context to the entire discussion, not just one tweet. And this was a missed opportunity by Community Notes, where Community Notes could have very simply broken down the debate. Hey, in 2010, NPR's funding was this. In 2010 through 2023, the funding was this, XYZ. It's all public. Community Notes could have easily broken that down, but instead, it seemed more interested in saying, no, it's essential, which is basically taking the side of Elon. Even though it was a note against Elon, it's taking the side of Elon and the Elon fans on Twitter, rather than actually adding more detailed support to the debate. So I question Elon's calls for the greatest TruthGPT, because I don't think Community Notes is doing the best job yet. I think it's useful, it's going in the right direction, but it has some work to do. And it all is in response to this Tucker Carlson piece with Elon Musk. Let's listen to this and see what Elon has to say. And it's not playing.
Quite fun.
There we go.
To the success of OpenAI, it was. I put a tremendous amount of effort into recruiting Ilya, and he changed his mind a few times and ultimately decided to go with OpenAI. But if he had not gone with OpenAI would not have succeeded. I really put a lot of effort into creating this organization to serve as a counterweight to Google. And then I kind of took my eye off the ball, I guess, and they are now closed source, and they are obviously for profit, and they're closely allied with Microsoft. In effect, Microsoft has a very strong say, if not directly controls OpenAI at this point. So you really have an OpenAI Microsoft situation, and then Google DeepMind are the two sort of heavyweights in this arena.
So it seems like the world needs a third option.
Yes. So I think I will create a third option, although starting very late in the game, of course.
Can it be done?
I don't know. I think we'll see. It's definitely starting late. But I'll try to create a third option, and that third option hopefully does more good than harm. Like the intention with OpenAI was obviously to do good, but it's not clear whether it's actually doing good or whether it's. I can't tell at this point, except that I'm worried about the fact that it's being trained to be politically correct, which is simply another way of being saying untruthful things.
Yes.
So that's a bad sign. There's certainly a path to AI dystopia is to train an AI to be deceptive. So yeah, I'm going to start something which I know you could call TruthGPT or a maximum truth-seeking AI that tries to understand the nature of the universe. And I think this might be the best path to safety in the sense that an AI that cares about understanding the universe it is unlikely to annihilate humans because we are an interesting part of the universe. Hopefully, they would think that. I think it would, because humanity could decide to hunt down all the chimpanzees and kill them, but we don't.
Yeah, and so they go into this argument that, hey, like, hopefully you could create something that cares utmost about the truth that then doesn't want to destroy all the other organisms that exist, just like we don't destroy whales or chimpanzees or otherwise. Now, later in this interview, Elon Musk talks about how social media often turns into this cesspool where everybody's fighting for clicks, and then you have this argument of everybody's trying to fight about how the other clan hates the other person rather than focusing on getting to the truth or getting to food, right? And that's very much, unfortunately, what I think Elon's community notes can sometimes actually contribute to is this divisiveness. See, for example, here's a commenter, and I appreciate you saying this. Kevin, I'm a member of Community Notes and rated that tweet. Direct funding is different year by year, and indirect funding, also Fed funds, is given by different organizations yearly. Our goal wasn't an itemized audit. I understand that your goal might not have been an itemized audit. My argument is that it should have been. And here is why I say that. Because if Elon Musk wants to create something that is looking for the utmost truth, if the answer is truth, then what we need is data. And instead of analyzing data or providing data, in this case, Community Notes simply provided one minor argument in a larger debate that reiterated one side. You have to think about that. Community Notes reiterating that NPR is still saying funding is essential is taking one side of the debate. Think about that when we draw this out like this. If on one side you have NPR is gov shill, right? And then on the right side you have NPR is independent, okay? There, independent, whatever. So on one side you have NPR is independent. On the other side you have NPR is a government shill. In order to get to the maximum level of truth, which is a goal that Community Notes is trying to do, it shouldn't simply be community noting something that actually reiterates, that's it, NPR is a government shill. That's what Community Notes did. It made a correction. In fairness, it made a correction. But by making that correction and not stepping into the rest of the debate to actually remain neutral, it de facto chose a side. And it happened to be the side that Elon Musk was on. And that is scary. So I know it might seem extreme, but the reality is, if Elon's going to be trusted with a TruthGPT, which anybody can create whatever they want, then you should also do your best to help settle disputes if you're a member of Community Notes by providing as much data as possible. Even if you have a little preface that says, hey, government, like it could be as simple as, there's a debate going around on NPR. Here's the reality. A, NPR still says it's government government funding is still essential. But here are more details on the debate. NPR's average funding has been 8% from government sources. NPR says they're independent. Elon Musk is debating creating a threshold for at what point of government funding a business should be deemed government supported. And then that should equally apply to other businesses. If certain media businesses are 8% funded by the government, then maybe if Enphase is 8% supported by the government, it should be considered a government-supported enterprise as well, or Tesla. So that should apply equally. And so really, I'm not here to shill NPR or Elon. I'm probably taking the most unpopular opinion, which is, again, trying to be in the middle. But the reality is, if you don't fully extinguish the debate and you just take one side, then Community Notes actually looks like it's partisan. All of a sudden, Community Notes looks like it's just a bunch of Elon shills doing something to support Elon Musk. Even though they were correcting Elon, they still took that side of the greater debate. Elon doesn't care about being corrected. If anything, and this is the sinister way to look at it, Elon could have purposefully made the mistake on his tweet to purposefully be community noted and then have Community Notes reiterate his basic argument that NPR is a government shill. That's touchy. That's touchy. So I don't disagree, Kevin, but the point of Community Notes is context to a specific claim, not the larger argument. That's fair. That's a very fair counterpoint. I agree with you. I would take it a step further, though, and say if the broad goal is to maximize truth, then if somebody inputs an argument, they should get both sides, right? Like, for example, if I put into TruthGPT and say, is Donald Trump racist? And it just says no or yes, whatever it says, right? And I go, give me an example of Donald Trump being racist. And it's like, here's an example where Donald Trump, said something about a black person or whatever, right? And then you're like, give me an example where Donald Trump said something about a white person. It does, fine. In such an example, in theory, it would be useful for the TruthGPT to also go, hey, look, you asked for this, but just keep in mind, here's a whole host of data and information that suggests that, yes, out of context, one of those comments may have been made, but in aggregate, so-and-so is likely not racist or likely racist. Because if we create a binary world, that is, you're either for me or against me, then we have a disastrous world. And that's really what I'm exemplifying here. You're creating a one side versus the other side. But humanity is much more complex than that. And humanity is what I call a gradient, right? This is what you have. You have a gradient. And so you have people at various different elements. You have people over here on the left. You have people over here on the right. And the more you are to these edges, the more extremes you have. The vast majority of people, I would imagine, rest over here. And these people, this is probably 80% right here, they deserve both sides of the argument, not just one. And unfortunately, that Community Note example was providing just one piece of data, which reiterates just one side of the spectrum. And it doesn't even provide the suggestion, like a button that's like, hey, if you want more of our opinion on or like the Community Notes view of this debate, click here. Well, then again, you're not actually leading the world to realize there's more truth to be had than just one little correction. So again, by making one correction and not others, you're de facto taking a side, and it's a problem. So that is my advice to maybe the TruthGPT folks, if there should ever become a TruthGPT. And that is my take on Elon Musk and TruthGPT. People are like, oh, Kevin's always an Elon and Tesla shill. No, I personally try to look for truth as well, and that doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I really try. Even if it's unpopular to do, I really try to look for what's the middle of the road. What are both sides of the argument? Because the reality is, I think most people, 80% of people, deserve both sides. I mean, really everybody does, but some people won't want to hear it. Cheers.